So, hello, okay, and welcome to the Music Me podcast. My name is Emma Temporal, and I'm the host of this podcast. And for each episode, we'll be talking to musicians, music teachers, performers, and industry experts about their musical journey, their advice for learners, and what music means to them. So, if you'd like to find more or find out more, I should say, about Music Me, please visit us at musicme.co.uk, where you can learn more information about our tutors and online music lessons. Now, let's get started. I'm delighted to welcome our first guest. She's called Vanisha Jilakar. Vanisha is an incredibly talented piano tutor and performer, and we are very honoured to have her as a tutor at Music Me. And she's going to join me in a discussion about performance anxiety. So, Vanisha, thank you very much for joining us. Let's start at the beginning. So, please tell me about your experience of studying and teaching piano and how that developed into an interest in performance anxiety.
Okay, so yes, first of all, thank you for having me be and letting me be a part of your podcast. I'm really excited and looking forward to talking with you. So, as you introduced, I'm Wanisha, and I am from sorry, I'm from Bangalore, India, which is um, part of South India, and that's where I grew up, and I did my schooling there. And I started learning piano when I was like around 9 or 10 years old. And it just started off as a hobby. And then eventually I started taking it more seriously by attending piano examinations with Trinity College London. And I started learning more about theory. And I started performing as well in school choirs and taking part in um, like bands. So all of that kind of instilled an interest in me. And after when I was 18, when I had to like choose a course, um, there was this course in my home city in Bangalore. It's called a Bachelor of Arts in Music Psychology and English. So all of those three subjects aligned to my interests, and I thought it would be perfect to enroll myself in that course to just study the subjects that I love and also pursue a career in it. Um, so yes, so that's how I joined the music psychology and English course in Bangalore, India. And when I was studying this course, there were like a lot of different course modules, and one of the course modules was performance anxiety, which I had like for over, I think, 2 semesters. So that's when I learned about various coping mechanisms, how you can deal with performance anxiety. And yes, I just got an interest in that particular area as well. And after I finished my undergrad in India, I taught music and piano for 2 years. And then after that, I just wanted to pursue my higher studies in music. So that's when I moved to Plymouth. I recently finished a master's in music at University of Plymouth. So yeah, so that's kind of like my backstory of how I ended up doing a bachelor's degree in music and psychology and English, and also ended up coming here because I just wanted to, um, yeah, because I just wanted to um, become more qualified in in this field, so that I and also just explore um, more by going to another country as well. So yeah.
That's a lot of studying you've done in a very short. space of time. And
Yes.
I like the fact that obviously, music is your main love. But the fact that you've done psychology as well,
Yes.
that's great for, today's discussion.
Mhm.
Because you've got the performance side, but you've got the psychology side as well to do the
Yes.
anxiety.
Yes.
So if you had to define performance anxiety, what is performance anxiety?
So performance anxiety in just very simple terms is when you feel an extreme amount of fear when you are performing in front of others. It doesn't necessarily have to just be for musicians. It can also be for other performers when they are doing stand-up comedy or if they're giving a speech or if they're acting. So it affects a lot of performers, not just musicians. And it's normal to have fear because it's part of our human emotions, but it becomes a hindrance when it becomes extreme and it hinders with your daily lives, especially in terms of your professional career of performing in front of others. And performance anxiety, it can, if you read up articles or blogs, it's very obvious that it manifests itself in like different ways. One is through physical, um, physically, like when you're sweating or your heart's racing too fast, or the other one is obviously emotional when you're like having too many negative thoughts, and that affects your um, performance and your playing in front of others. And the other ones is obviously behavioral when you tend to avoid situations that will help you grow and become a better performer, like skipping auditions or maybe even missing practices or missing not signing up for um, a recital that could help you showcase your talent. So, yes, I think performance anxiety in very simple terms can be, um, yeah, can be discussed in that sense. Yeah.
It's it's very debilitating, isn't it? I mean, I
Yes.
can speak from my own first-hand experience, and we can go into that a
Mhm.
little bit later, but it absolutely cripples me. I suffer, I mean, as a pianist, I
Mhm.
suffer, um, serious symptoms of performance anxiety, and I have what you've said, I'm shaking, I'm sweating, and
Yes.
then I have the negative self-talk as well, and
Mhm.
with all of that going on, as a pianist, it makes it nigh on impossible to perform. And I have, taken the route more of teaching to do with that because the anxiety is so crippling. But why? This is what gets me, Venetia.
Mhm.
Why is it? I see some people and it looks like it doesn't bother them. So why do you get people like me where it's crippling, but then you get other people and they don't seem to have any performance anxiety?
Yes, I think that's a good question. And like you, I have also suffered, and it still is something that I deal with, like anxiety, performance anxiety when I'm playing in front of others. So I think there are so many factors that come into play when as to why some people have less performance anxiety and why others have more. I don't think that um, there's anyone who doesn't face any anxiety. Maybe they do, but the way they try to overcome that anxiety is they deal with that better. So, and I think there are some musicians who started off being very timid and shy, but as they keep performing and they have experience of just playing in front of others over many years, I think they get better at dealing with it. So when you see professional musicians who not only sound good, but they also have like good stage presence, I think it's because of the years of experience of just playing in front of others. I think that really helps because I think performance anxiety doesn't necessarily have to do with how you play. You can be an excellent pianist or excellent guitarist or whatever, but but if you don't have like a lot of experience or if you don't put yourself out there a lot, and if you just avoid playing and performing in front of others, I think would be more um it would be more hard and difficult to conquer that anxiety, and just other factors like how prepared you are,
Mhm.
um and how um yeah, how prepared you are as well. Like if you are confident with whatever songs you're going to play, or if you're confident with the instrument that you are playing and you have played that over a long period of time, you can, and just like the familiarity of the environment and yeah, so I think all of these factors do play a role in as to why some people face lesser anxiety and why others would face more and how they deal with that. So, yeah.
Yeah, and it's really reassuring to know, Venetia, that, you said earlier that all performers, suffer performance anxiety, but I suppose some have it in stronger degrees than others.
Yeah.
And it's
Like,
nice to know what you said that, they might have had a certain level of performance anxiety, but that
mhm,
decreased, the more they performed in front of others. So I
mhm.
think that makes a massive difference to our listeners to know that even though you might see somebody on stage and they look so accomplished, they look so confident, you know, they might not have always been that way. And yeah, that is quite encouraging to know that it's not just you, because we can feel everybody's better at coping with it than me, and it is just me. So it's really reassuring to know how actually widespread it is. And would you say that some people? I mean, I like what you said about how when you're prepared, that does
Mhm.
help the nerves, and I think you said about how, you start performing with maybe a smaller audience, would you say? So
Yes.
if you start small with friends and family and then gradually, increase the number of performances or gradually increase the audience, would that help, Venetia?
Yes, definitely. I think that for students who are learning an instrument or just beginners who want to get better at their instrument, obviously they don't have much experience performing in general. So I think a good head start is just asking someone you can trust, like your close friends or family, and be like, "Can I play my piece, the piece that I worked on, in front of you?" And they obviously won't say no. So yeah, so just like asking your friends and family and playing in front of them, I think that's just a really good way to start because yes, because you also have their feedback as well.
Mhm.
um like after you play, you ask them how did I do, and then yes, I think that's a good place to start for sure. And just also like maybe recording yourself too, I think that helps for me too, especially like because when I'm playing by myself without recording, it's yes, I do know where I'm going wrong, but when I'm recording and I go back to it, and I'm like, "Oh, okay, this is where I went wrong." And I work on that particular section until I get that right. So, yes.
No, that's very helpful to have that encouragement from your friends and your family, because they won't judge you, if you make a mistake. And
Yes.
whereas and that's where you need to get over, that the fact that people aren't
Mhm.
judging to. They want to enjoy the music because one, I think where my crippling anxiety started was, um,
Mhm.
I used to play a lot of school concerts, and I put so much pressure on myself in front of all the teachers and all the parents and all my, peers at school that
Yeah.
if I made one single error, one single note, the
Yeah.
whole performance was ruined. And my goodness me, Venetia, that amount of pressure for such a young person, that was a lot of pressure, and I continued to have that pressure
Mhm.
until in my 20s, I watched, one of the Leeds piano competitions, just when
Mhm.
it was televised, and I happened to have studied that piece of music. So, it's only because I studied it, I did recognise one tiny error, what they made, and then it dawned on me, I had like a eureka moment. I was like, "Hang on, if the best of the best of the best can make mistakes,
Yes.
why am I putting so much pressure on myself for making that one error?" And it is that pressure because, in my some of my other roles, I often give presentations. And if I trip over a word, even if I'm giving a presentation to hundreds of people, it doesn't bother me one bit. I just apologize
Yes.
and then move on. But if I make one error, oh my goodness me, I mentally beat myself up so much. And,
Mhm.
like I said, it was only later on I realized, hang on, even professionals, even the best of the best make mistakes, but they can handle that, I suppose. Would you agree?
Yes, I completely agree. I think it's just a very human thing to make small errors when you're performing. So it's also good to know that, okay, there are people who are really good and they make mistakes. So it's kind of comforting to know that, okay, if they can make a mistake, it's totally fine. Um for us, I mean, for me to make a mistake. And yes, and I think it's just because like our human minds tend to just focus too much on the negative. And I think just that fixation and trying to be perfect when you're
Yeah.
playing, I think that also like removes the fun when you're playing. It removes the sense of just enjoying and being lost in the music.
Hmm.
So yeah, and I think in the technical side of it, I think when you're playing a piece, if you make a mistake, it's fine. So what I learned is that keeping time is more
Yeah.
important than like um, I mean making a mistake in the note, like in the pitches of the notes. Because if you're able to keep time, and even if you make like a small mistake, like instead of C you play D, I think it's fine. So you just have to like move on from it. Because when I had to play like solo piano, like for piano recitals in my undergrad, overall I did well, but when I made like a small mistake, I would just like move on from it immediately and try to like pretend that I didn't make a mistake. And when I would like go back and ask my friends, "Hey, I made a mistake. Did you notice that?" They would be like, "No, I don't. I didn't even realize you made a mistake." So it's yes, it's all about how you um deal with those slips when you play as well. Um yes, and also getting back on track, because if you like lose time again, it just like, especially when you're playing with others, it completely um yeah, it completely makes your playing fall apart. So yes.
So, say for example, if something does happen, okay, if it hasn't affected the timing and if you keep going, there's a very, very good chance that the audience might not even notice.
Exactly. Yes.
Mm. And if you've got that in your mind as well, and if the worst does happen and if you make a mistake,
Mhm.
I think if you can just move on in the piece, it might help you move on mentally, so you're not torturing yourself for the rest of the piece and you're having all these negative thoughts going, it's ruined, you've ruined the performance. If you can continue with the timing, you might be able to move on mentally as well instead of beating yourself up all the time, which is what I have done. Um, yeah, that might help think, okay, and then if you carry on with a
Yeah.
fresh start, again, you're not carrying that baggage of self-doubt.
Yes. I mean, it's easy to say, okay, it's like not fixate on that and just like move
Mm,
on immediately when you're playing from that mistake. It takes a lot of conscious effort and a lot of mental strength to do that, but I think it's the best way you can deal with it. Because it's not just me. I had my classmate too. She plays piano really well. Um, she just made a small mistake, like um, for one of our main recitals. But the way she handled that, she just immediately moved on and played the next note that she was supposed to play, and she did really well. So yeah, it shouldn't matter if you make a mistake when you're playing, um, because it's going to happen. Like if you focus too much on like, oh, I'm going to make a mistake, you will end up making a mistake. So I think it's just like having positive affirmations before you're playing and just um yeah, and just like not being too hard on yourself if you make a mistake. So,
'Cause I think as well, this can come with being anxious about an upcoming performance as well.
mhm,
Obviously, we want to practice it so that we don't make mistakes, but I've had it before where I've been so anxious about an upcoming performance. I've
mhm,
got to the point where, I've over practiced it, and over practicing, just to, define this for our listeners, is
yeah,
whereby um, you've gone past the point of it being at its best, and now you start making silly mistakes, and it gets worse and worse and worse, and that 100% for me is from anxiety. So once I've been in that position and I can see this piece is going to get worse and worse, I've actually just I'm going to stop my practice right now,
mm,
just move away from it, even for a few days, and then come
mm,
back to it. And then that has settled it. Otherwise, you're making it worse and worse. Um, yeah, I don't know if you've experienced that or you know people who have experienced that where you can do it too much and then it gets worse and worse.
yes, I definitely agree with you. I mean, obviously, it's true that you have to be prepared enough when you are, I mean, before your performance. But it's different when you reach a point when you're already really good, but you're just practicing out of fear and panic. And I think
Mm,
that practice, if you even if you think it's going to help, it really wouldn't help because it's already now part of your muscle memory. Now you're just like practicing to make yourself feel um reassured, but I don't think that really helps because again it's just like I mean, and also it's like you're practicing so much that when you're playing the piece it doesn't it feels like you're lacking emotions when you're playing. But when you like took a I think you said you took a gap, right? So and then you went back to the piece, I think that would be more refreshing to play the piece. So I definitely think that just practicing out of um I mean fear that oh it's I have to perform in the next few days. I don't think
mm,
that really helps.
no.
Um yeah. So I think I have definitely experienced that, especially when I had to like um play for piano exams, and
Yes.
I would like enroll myself for like the in-person piano exams, and I would just play I think a lot more towards the end when I had to maybe let's say like I have to do the exam or give the exam tomorrow. I would play a lot, I would practice a lot more just the day before It's like,
Mhm.
you know, how you're studying for an exam, you're trying to study everything in a day, but I don't think that really helps, like cramming your whole practice right before the day of your performance because you've already done it so
Yeah.
many times and you're just, as you said, make it worse when, yeah.
I mean, sometimes what I do, I mean, this isn't in any literature what I've read, but it's
Mhm.
works for me sometimes where when I've got something coming up where I know that
Mhm.
I'll feel nervous, I know that I'll feel anxiety.
Mhm.
What I might do the night before is do something completely different. Like I might just watch a movie just
Yes.
so for that short 2 hours of that movie, my
Mhm.
mind is completely removed from what is going to happen the next day. Otherwise, the more you think about it, the more you keep mulling over it, the more you keep mulling over it, the bigger and bigger it gets. And I think, you know, just looking at, performance anxiety as it is, I think if we
Mhm.
don't manage it and we use these coping mechanisms like what we've
Mhm.
talked about so far, like, you
Yes.
know, performing regularly to like friends and family, because I
Mhm.
think if we leave
Mhm.
it untreated, would you agree that performance anxiety, it would just get worse?
Yes, definitely. Like if you don't personally address um the amount of fear you face when you're playing, it definitely could get worse. Um and it's about uh knowing how to deal with the anxiety each time you perform. There's so many
Mhm.
things that you can do to make yourself feel calm, like maybe
Right.
just arriving at the venue well in advance so that you know you don't feel
Mm.
too too anxious when you reach there, and just familiarizing yourself with who is going to be there, but again arriving a bit early and then again being prepared but not being too prepared where you're just like practicing because you're anxious, and just fixating on enjoying the performance, and also like right before you enter the stage you can like focus on breathing exercises,
Mm.
um and just visualizing that okay, I'm going to have a positive experience playing. And I think that really helps too um when you think that you're going to have a positive experience while playing and just visualizing yourself enjoying your piece. I think all of those small factors kind of build up and they do make a difference. So, yeah. And in extreme cases, you can also just talk to, I mean, if you're going for therapy, you can talk to your counselor about it. Um, yes, but I think, yeah, it's important to address these, I mean, the fear that you face when you're performing because it's like a very, it plays a huge role for if you want to pursue music professionally. So yes,
And like you said, you can't leave it, you've got to face it. You know, you've got to
yes, you
put
gotta fix it. Yes.
yeah, whatever coping mechanism works for you,
Mhm.
whether it's breathing exercises, some people use
Mhm.
meditation, some people even get therapy to deal with it rather
Mhm.
than like you can't just ignore it because it will always be there. And if we keep
Yes.
ignoring it, it might
Mhm.
get worse and worse.
Mhm.
But you're right, you need to find that coping mechanism that works for you because obviously
Mhm.
everybody is different.
Yeah.
I remember reading about Paul McCartney, from the Beatles, and this was
Yes.
really nice. He said that every time he went out to perform, he
Mhm.
imagined that the whole audience, they were all his friends. So if they're
Yes.
all his friends, that they all,
Mhm.
no one's going to judge him, no one's going to think
Yes.
critically of him if they're all your friends in the audience. And, that was his coping mechanism. So, like you said, you've got to find out you've got to deal with it and
Mhm.
find out what works for you. Okay.
Yes. That's true. Yeah.
Okay. So, um, I want to finish this podcast by I'm going to use another podcast as an example, The Diary of a CEO, because I quite like the way he finishes the podcast where uh, the current guest asks a question for the next guest. And because it's a Music Me podcast, we're going to keep the question musical. So, Venetia, what would be your question for the next guest?
So my question for the next guest is what their favorite style or genre of music is and why they like that genre. So,
That's a very good question. A very difficult one as well, because it's really difficult is to say like why we're in like this genre the most and but why we have that reason for liking that genre. So, um, before we finish, I think today's conversation, I think it highlights something really important, and
mm,
that is performance anxiety. It affects musicians at every level, whether it's from complete beginners to seasoned professionals. And feeling nervous, it doesn't mean that you're not good enough. It means that you care, you truly care about what you're doing. So, a huge thank you for our first guest, Vanisha Jalakar. Thank you very much, Jalakar, for sharing your experiences and your practical advice with us today. So, if you're on your own musical journey and you would like support from an experienced tutor like our very own Vanisha Jilakar, please visit musicme.co.uk to find out more about our personalised online music tuition. So, thank you all for listening to the Music Me podcast. And until next time, be kind to yourself, trust your preparation, and keep making beautiful music. Okay. Thank you and goodbye.
thank you so much. Yeah. Bye.